Loud and clear.
Stuck in here real quick. All right, I have a presentation I want to do this morning, and for some reason, someone used the projector last, and I cannot find it, so I apologize. So it's on my small screen here this morning. So first of all, I thank everyone for coming out this morning. There's a lot going on, so let's get that out of the way real quick. And again, of course, you're here this morning to meet the mayor. This afternoon is the annual spaghetti dinner for the seniors. So that's from 4. So all excited. I already got my tickets, and I've only got some of my kids at home. I've got the boys. They're off at a soccer tournament today, so they're going what, Sauk or something, right? So they're out playing soccer, and hopefully they don't get hurt. But
hopefully they don't hurt somebody else.
hopefully they don't hurt somebody else. So, but you know, they're rough like their mother. What can I say? Yeah. Yeah, there you go. I've got a flyer here. I think everyone knows about it already. We want to make sure that you're aware of it. The 3rd annual Sauk Village Resource Fair. This is something that the village clerk has really taken over the years, and it has expanded. She's done a great job with bringing resources in for residents, and it's just kind of real quick. I mean, you've got ComEd, Neighborhood Housing Services, Cook County, Boone Township, American Red Cross, Illinois State Treasurer's Office, Aunt Martha's, Get Covered Illinois, South Suburban Housing Center. That's just a few of the ones that are going to be here. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick this up here, and some sunglasses, which I don't think I need, and a bracelet. So we'll throw this in the lost and found. So before I get started in the presentation, let's go through real quick and see if anyone has any questions. And if you don't have any questions, I'll look around real quick. You?
Is this the new chief? Is he riding around the streets also?
Oh, yes. And he's out there on the streets. He's backing up officers on calls. Whenever we have an issue, there was an arrest of a fugitive. I think everyone saw in the newspaper a couple weeks ago. He was one of the ones out there going out there knocking door to door, telling residents either to stay in their house or making sure if they wanted to leave that they could get out of there safely. He's very active. If you're having issues, I encourage you to go talk to the chief. He wants to know where the problem areas are in Sauk Village, so we start to address them. He has, when we went through the hiring process, number one, his resume was unbelievable. Number two, you know, he was about one of the only ones that came back and said, you know, if you hire me as chief, here's what I will do, and here's what I plan to do. Okay, so he's come in here with a plan, and he's working. I don't think he even sleeps anymore. He is constantly working. He's here during the day. He's here at night. He's sending us emails. You know, if something happens in the middle of the night, he's sending them at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, making sure that the board knows. Trying to make sure that we get that open line of communication. That was one of the major complaints for the Board of Trustees, is that things were happening and no one was telling them about it. They were reading about it on Facebook, remember? If you've come to the board meetings, that was one of the biggest complaints. Why am I hearing about it on Facebook and no one's telling me about it? So he's trying to get that line of communication to the Board of Trustees before it gets on Facebook. Sometimes it doesn't always happen, because when you're out there in the streets, you know, you're taking care of matters before you can get to your phone or back to your computer and send an email, right? So he's working on that. He also has an initiative that he doesn't like the way that the website looks for the police department. You know, we talked about one of his goals is the PR portion, right? And getting out with the residents and getting that relationship back the way it used to be with the police officers and the residents, okay? So, you know, he has an objective, one of his own personal objectives is that he wants to redo the police department's portion of the website. And he wants to be able to have access so he can start putting information out there and telling the residents what the police department is doing. He has a lot of great things that, you know, he wants to do, so thanks.
I'm so happy to see I came home to my house one afternoon, and my street was closed. There was a shooting right across the street, and there he was. He was there. He blocked the street. I couldn't get around.
Yeah.
And he's very enthused about what the COP, our Community Outreach Partnership, he's taking a real gung-ho. We're going to do this shop at the top, and we're going to be doing fundraisers in case anybody likes chocolate. We've got chocolate coming. So he is very, very proactive on doing stuff. I'm happy to see. I waited 7 years for that one house to be taken care of. He was right there when that shooting occurred.
He's jumping on all the ones where residents come and say, you know, I think they're selling drugs out of this house, or I think they're doing this. Believe me, he is not a friend of the criminal element in our town.
Good.
So he is going to be out there going after them. And that's one of the things that we said when I was elected, right? Move the criminal element out of town. Well, you have to have someone in that position that believes the same way you do to move them out of town. Now we have that individual. So, yes.
How are the other officers acclimated?
You know, it seems like they're doing okay. No news is good news. I haven't heard any complaints. I haven't got no votes with no confidence or anything. So, you know, with police officers, this is one thing we talked about when I met with the candidates for police chief. Whoever's been in law enforcement, they know that the police department officers have a hard time with change, right? They like things to just continually run as smoothly and easy. Police department has seen a lot of changes over the years. Okay, what is this? Something like their third or fourth chief. Probably the last 4 or 5 years. So a lot of times, you know, they stay back. They want to see what this individual is going to do. They want to know, you know, police department. They want to know if someone's going to support them. Police officers do. Right now, they got someone who supports them 100%. So, you know, he's been in law enforcement for over 30-some years. So he, you know, when he started as a police officer, I think it was Forest Park or something.
Park Forest.
No, I think it was Forest Park, I think. But he started in law enforcement for like 10 years. So, you know, he was one of them, if you want to say that. Then he went to the FBI, which is still law enforcement, and then back into law enforcement again at the county level. So, take a look at his resume. He comes with a great resume and great background. So, if you're looking for good things to happen in Sauk Village.
By the criminal line, he's scared to death.
I hope so.
Get him out of here.
That's right. So, for everyone's been coming to the board meetings, you see the boards behind me. This is something we stick up here every week. We talk about the water, if you want to see water treatment plants. We talk about, you know, we're still pushing very hard for the Arrowhead Park, $235,000. We're still hitting Springfield, along with other communities. Because remember, this was a DNR grant. So this is still monies that the governor has held up, but this is money that the governor shouldn't have held up because this is coming from the federal government for this money, for this project. So one good thing is we were very proactive at looking at the governor coming in, what he was talking about doing. We did not start any of the work on this park area. A lot of communities started the work, and they're stuck with the funds. They're stuck with paying for what work got done or started, and most of that work in other communities have stopped because they don't have their funds. That's one reason we didn't move forward. You know, with the new governor coming in, there's a lot of things we did, right? Funds that we said we were getting, we waited till we make sure we had any before we spent a dime, which we didn't spend anything because we didn't receive it. The other thing is, when it came to our budget, we looked at a budget in worst case scenario. Okay, now we know in Springfield they still haven't passed a budget, right? We saw this last week that they finally are releasing funds to municipalities. Okay, I don't know if you saw that. Some funds they're releasing to municipalities. So, and I think it's funny because they tied it to something that, to make sure that people that won the Illinois lottery got their money, right? So they tied that to releasing funds to municipalities. They threw that in there. So, I don't care how they throw it in there, I'm just glad they did, right? And you should be glad too. We just want to make sure they release all the funds there too. So, we're still pushing this. We're still talking to our state representatives. Fire hydrants, this gets updated weekly. If you look real closely, you're going to see a lot of these that were red stars are now yellow. So where you see a yellow star, that's where something is already under construction, we've already went in there, or I didn't, our Public Works Department has. Found out what the problems are, if they needed parts ordered, they're starting to order the parts. They're finding out, is it a deeper dig, things like that, so it's already, they know where the yellow dots are, they know what the problem is, and they've already started to see what they can do to address it. The green dots are ones that are completely fixed. So, happy to say there's 2 or 3 on here. You see this used to be a red star, now it's a green star, that one's fixed. This used to be a red star, this is a green. See, if you want to look at the red ones, they're yellow now, yellow, 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 yellow. Here's a red that turned green. So you're going to see a lot of work going on. There's some work that Public Works is not able to do. So we have contractual services in our budget. We went out and we looked for someone to come in and do that work so we can start addressing some of these other fire hydrants. So, you know, I tell everyone, you know, I have, if you want to call it, some people say they have a bucket list, right? Or they have something that they want to see that achieved and done. You know, this is one of my goals. I want to see all green stars up there. Okay, now we know this is a moving target, we call, right? Because somebody can go through and they can hit a fire hydrant and next thing you know, there's going to be another red star up there. Or they could turn one on and a bolt break inside there. So it's a moving target. But my goal is to make sure that they're all green. And when we hit those moving targets, it's something we can turn around and take care of right away. So, you know, I think I talked to Kevin this last week. They're supposed to be receiving the checks. They're supposed to be picking up the temporary air strippers. We voted on to approve to sell those for $25,000. That's $25,000 that's going to go and immediately purchase more fire hydrants. Okay, and that's what we said as a board, we're going to use that money for. So as soon as we get that check, well, Juan already knows, and Kevin already knows, order the fire hydrants, and get them in here. I don't want that money spent on anything else except for fire hydrants. So we'll be able to get those. So let's see here. Anything else we're getting in this presentation? Presentation. This is things that we learned. As most of you know, the board went down to what we call IML this last month. IML is the Illinois Municipal League Conference. Took some of the classes, and the questions and answers I have, I want to go through some of these this morning. It's stuff that we've seen here in Sauk Village that other communities are facing also. The attorney group that put this presentation out is the same attorney group that writes the IML or the Illinois State Statute Handbook, right? So they are very knowledgeable when it comes to the laws, especially when it comes to local government. So as we go through this, you're going to see a lot of these questions we've seen come to the public at the board meetings. Some of these questions are things that you've asked here, and a lot of times I answer the questions because I might know them because of future things, but I figure it's best to come back with what did the attorneys say, right? So we're going to go through this a little bit. And here's one that says, can a trustee make a vote or a motion to add an item to a future agenda if the subject is not on the current agenda, right? We know that that question came up in here about 3 or 4 meetings ago. Now, trustees are coming to board meetings and they're changing the agenda. Can they do that? The answer is a purely technical reading of the Open Meetings Act would not allow immediate vote on a topic added to the agenda for discussion. So, you know, we've got the answer to this. It says that the Attorney General would allow a motion to discuss and a vote to be placed on a future agenda because otherwise the flow of public business would be seriously stifled. So, you know, I know when that question was brought up here a few months ago, you know, I think I said something, you know, I don't remember what I said, but I might have said something we probably should check into. Now we have the attorneys from the ones who write the laws and puts our handbooks together that we're supposed to be going by, right? How about here? What can a public body do if a member, we'll say the Board of Trustees or the legislative body will not follow procedural rules and actively disrupts the meeting? That was another question that came up here. What are you going to do about the trustees that won't even keep the meetings in order, the ones that are disrupting them? Okay, it says here, there's statutory provision allowing a member to be expelled for breaking the rules, but not more than a single time for the same offense. This should not prevent an actual arrest for the general ordinance violation of disturbing the peace. Now, how many times have residents said, Mayor, it's your job to keep order and decorum? I hear trustees say, Mayor, it's your job to keep order and decorum, right? And I agree. It is the mayor's responsibility to keep order and decorum. Well, don't ask the question if you don't want it enforced. All right? So, I can tell you the conference we went to was very informative, and it's tools that we use to be able to run the board meetings, right? It's tools we use to be a better elected official for you residents. Okay? So, again, we're making sure that we're going to do everything we were supposed to. How can you deal with elected officials who keep interrupting one another in a meeting? The rules of order, the answer is the rules of order of the governmental body needs to deal with efforts to interrupt debate with matters of personnel inquiry and various types of questions. Under most effective rules of order, the presiding officer is allowed to determine whether the attempted interruption will be beneficial to the debate and is more than delaying or obstructionist effort. Courts will almost never attempt to second-guess any arguable, rational decision of the presiding officer. Okay, so presiding officer, that'd be the mayor in our case, right? I have the right to say, to say, okay, is the interruption, is this something that's going to be beneficial? Okay? Again, it's about being fair. It's about running the meetings with order and decorum, right? Let's see here. Does the village president need to file a Freedom of Information Act request to receive pertinent documents related to the community? The answer is no. People don't understand that, but it goes on forward to say state law gives a clear right to the mayor to review all pertinent documents of the community at any reasonable time, even stationary managers, which we don't have, in communities where the mayor is in the political minority, need to honor this requirement. Yes?
If I'm understanding that question right, does that mean that village business, whether it be committees, whatever it may be, that their information is not private to you?
No, the mayor has right to everything.
That's what I'm asking, so, okay.
Right.
So they can't say this is mine, you don't have a right to know this, even though it's village business.
They do not. So, the mayor has access to everything. Let's see, let's go to that one. Are trustees entitled to review documents of the community without making a FOIA request? Okay, continuing developing law on the subject gives the right to elected official to gain access generally upon written request. And again, let's see, for documents that are pertinent to their legislative duties. Okay, there was a comma there. Okay, by written request that pertain to their legislative duties. That's what they have a right to. All right, obviously another alternative is to make a FOIA request, which provides a relatively short compliance timeline. So, yeah, they can file a FOIA request.
I missed the question.
What's that?
The government itself filing for you?
This is talking about the board of trustees. So it's talking about your alderman trustees, and then when we go to IMOs, they look at a broad view. So, again, these are things that, it's not just problems in Sauk Village, right? These are what other communities are seeing too. So, the question is, does a trustee have a right to file a FOIA request? Well, yeah, they do have a right to file a FOIA request, because our community is not the only community where trustees file FOIAs, right? So, you can ask, you can go by written request, and a lot of things will be provided. Everyone wants to say that I'm a bad guy and I'm too hardcore. And I have no problem, I was a trustee for 14 years. You know, I have no problem providing information, but there's some information that you don't provide trustees. Trustees have a right to certain stuff that deals with their legislative responsibilities. Okay, so that's what's important to understand. That's what's important for board members to understand what their responsibilities are, right? Let's see here. When can the mayor vote? That came up a question a few meetings ago, right? You know, when can you vote? So I remember I always tell them there's 3 reasons, but I can never remember the third one. And then when I read this, I remember why I can't remember the third one. It says the mayor may only vote on 3 occasions. Number 1, to break a tie. Number 2, when half of the aldermen, or in our case trustees, have voted in favor, even if there's no tie. And number 3, when a greater than majority vote is required. That second one always gets me. When half your board has voted, and you have to vote. So, and then there's occasions because, as we know, I guess someone could abstain. Someone, when it comes time to voting, walked out of the room and decided they didn't want to vote, right? So half the board has voted, and you need to have a mayor's vote. So, kind of gives you an idea there. I've never had to use number 2. I've always, I've had to use number 1 quite a bit lately. And I've had to use number 3, the majority, when it requires more than a majority. Can trustees be entitled to address the village board for unlimited periods of time and on unlimited occasions associated with the same or different motions? The answer is no. Okay, Sauk Village already has an ordinance in place that says, I gotta look at this again, it's either 2 or 3 times. If you discuss something more than 2 or 3 times, I can't remember the number it is, you're out of order. Okay? And it goes on to say, so long as the rule is treated fairly, local governments can establish procedures or rules limiting the time that an elected official may speak and the number of times that a person may address particular issues. Now, we already have the part where you can address particular issues, right? And I've had it asked, why don't you enforce that ordinance? Well, the Board of Trustees has been given that ordinance in their box. They know it. So if it gets to a point where I have to start enforcing it, I will start enforcing it. But I think the other thing too is, how many times have we heard residents come up and say, I get 3 minutes to talk and you guys get to sit up there and talk all night, right? So maybe it's something we send back to our Ordinance Review Committee and say, maybe we limit the time that an elected official can speak. Be interesting if it passes. But we already got the amount of times they can bring up a subject. So this is something that, again, bringing stuff back from IML, we start acting upon it. Is there something that we're missing? So yes.
The thing that you have there, that you put together, is open to all of the trustees down at IML, or this just something you put together?
No. In IML, there's multiple classes. So, there could be at any time 5 or 6 classes going on. And a lot of times trustees attend classes that affect what they're working on. Like Trustee Jones went to a Parks and Recs meeting, okay? I know that when I sat in this class, I think Trustee Williams was in the same class I was in this one here. And then I think there's some other classes. Everyone, when you get your list of classes, I call them classes, but if you want to call it, it's a conference, so they're meetings, and you get your list, you see, okay, I want to attend this one, because I think this is going to benefit me the most. There's a trustees roundtable. I don't know how many trustees attended that, but it's trustees from all these communities come in and they sit around in a circle and they talk about issues that's facing their town or facing their boards, and they talk about what they can do. I went to the mayor's roundtable. So I sat in a room, there's probably, there had to be close to 100 of us mayors inside that room. Great big, it was great big circle, probably about the size of this room, and it was probably 3 chairs deep, with us all sitting in a great big circle, right? Talking about issues that we're facing, how do we address certain issues, and kind of give you an idea. Things came up in water, okay? Everyone knows we just had a presentation from Jim Zarnik. How our community is going to face this new especially for MWRD customers. How are we going to affect this new ordinance, especially in Cook County, where we have to do all these new upgrades within the next 3 years? And it's an unfunded mandate, what we call it. We're mandated to do this, but they're not providing the funds. Okay? They talked about Lake Michigan water versus well water. Now, Lake Michigan water right now is a major issue. Chicago's raising their rates. These communities are getting to the point where their residents cannot afford Lake Michigan water. Some of these communities are looking at going back to well water. And it's a major discussion right now. And it's not just here in the south suburbs, it's everywhere. They're talking about it all the way up in the northwest suburbs. They're pretty upset with the mayor of Chicago. You know, and you know, for a lot of those communities out here, there's a lot of mayors that are upset with Hammond, Indiana. Because Hammond, Indiana is trying to raise their rates to match Chicago's rates.
You know, if you take a ride down Sauk Trail, just over the I-57, they used to have a big sign up there about, we got Lake Michigan water. Go up and see what that sign says now.
Really, I haven't seen it.
Go see what it says now. We can't afford Lake Michigan water. Go and see what it says now.
They put out South Suburban Mayors and Managers put out a water rate. You know, people in Sauk Village think they have high rates. Try to go to some of these other towns. You're not finding that even though you have well water, you've got probably, I'm not going to say the lowest rate, but you've got some of the lowest rates in the entire South suburbs. When it comes to South Suburban Mayors and Managers, when it comes to the 34, at least 34 communities that we represent. So, let's see if we move on here. Can a mayor make a temporary appointment to a vacancy appointed position without council approval? I don't ever encourage this, but there's times that times that you have to. You know, as mayor, my job is responsibility is to work with your board, right? Is your board always going to agree with you? No, they're not going to. Okay, but you're supposed to try to work with your board. It says normally the mayor must receive confirmation from his appointment of the person to the municipality office. If the appointed office is truly vacated, the mayor is authorized to make a temporary appointment for the purpose of keeping public business going. Home rule communities can probably limit the duration of the temporary appointment. Okay? We're not home rule. We're not home rule. So, I'll give you an idea. Oh, I like this. How many times have I heard someone say, those trustees are so rude. Those trustees, they don't do this, they don't do that. What are you going to do about it, right? I like this one. How can elected officials be nicer? Hey, this even comes to the mayor, right? Because I'm an elected official too. How can we be nicer, right? This tells you Sauk Village isn't the only one with this problem. We're at an IML conference with municipalities from the whole entire state of Illinois. They're saying, how can elected officials be nicer? I love this one. There we go. Let's see. There's your answer. Some elected officials learn to govern effectively by attending seminars or workshops dealing with parliamentary procedures and governmental operations, and by better understanding their powers and their role in government. It is helpful if they understand the division of powers and duties and focus upon the general fact that 90% of the public issues can be resolved through non-objectional compromise. There you go. How can they be nicer? There it is. This comes from the attorneys. This didn't come from me. Don't get mad at me. They're still saying, go shoot the messenger. Right? So these are questions that were brought up in the meetings. You know, Mayor, what can you do about, trustee doesn't look at me, or the trustee is always playing on their phone. You know, how many times I hear, trustee, can't you take their phones away from them? Can't you take their electrical devices away from them? No, I can't do that. But maybe you should push to tell them to pass an ordinance that says all electronics must be turned off during the meeting. You know? I'm not going to say, I'm not pointing anyone out because I use mine sometimes, right? When someone comes up, who was it? The other day, someone came up and said, oh, Trustee Jones. So we've got Halloween thing going on, right? I pull my phone out right away and put it inside my phone. So if you look at my calendar, it's there. And so I don't forget. Okay? And I give myself reminders 2 or 3 days before an event. So it's there. Right? But there's nothing that says I can't write that down and put it in at a later time. Anyone can do that. Okay? So let's see here. How can they be nicer? That's funny. Can aldermen or trustees direct or assign municipal employees? This is a question that came up. What powers does trustees have to go out there and talk to our police officers, our public works department? Let's see here. Can aldermen or trustees direct or assign municipal employees? Trustees have only their powers, those powers that are granted to them by ordinance and do not conflict with the general operation duties of the mayor. It's right there. I didn't write this. Okay? You know, you hear all the time, I got more responsibility. Oh, no, you don't. Know what you're supposed to do. Okay, it goes on to say, trustees should make their questions and inquiries known to the mayor, the administrator, or department heads. That's their responsibility. I didn't write this. I didn't put this out. I didn't do this presentation. I'm here today relaying this information to you. Okay? They went on and said, directing street crews, it's an example, directing street crews to repair particular potholes is not good form. It's not the Board of Trustees or the aldermen, we don't have aldermen, but it's not the Board of Trustees' responsibility to direct the department head to do something. It's the mayor's or the administrator. In our case, we have both. Now, the trustees can bring up something and say, I've got this address where there's potholes. Can you see if you can take care of this? There's no problem with that. But to direct, Kevin Weller, you go out there and fix this pothole. They can't do that. So, again, these are questions that's come up inside these forums. And it's amazing how I'm sitting inside this conference and thinking, wow, number one, Sauk Village is the only one having these problems. And number two, Sauk Village residents aren't the same ones asking these questions, because if they're providing this to all state of Illinois elected officials, that means this is happening in other communities. All right? Here's the question. What are the municipal clerk's administrative powers? That was just asked here like about 4 or 5 meetings ago, right? What's the village clerk supposed to do? What's her powers? And that's because something came up at a board meeting that someone said something about the village clerk, remember? Let's see here what it says. It says the clerk is granted some specifics, statutory, and may be granted broad authority by ordinance or by practice. The clerk's administrative authority only extends to deputy clerks. In smaller communities, some clerks function as village administrators with their full knowledge and blessing of the other elected officials. Now, we don't do that, right? For 2.5 years, you know, it felt like it was the mayor and the village clerk and the finance director, right? We were tag teaming each other, asking for help, right? But for the first 2.5 years, everything came through the mayor's office. And I would ask for support. I'd ask, Mohan, can you please take care of this? Debbie, can you please attend this meeting for me? Or can you write this up for me? Now we have a village administrator. So I work closely with the village administrator, so we don't have the clerk administrator portion here. All right? So, let's see here. I like this one. Someone is flying a drone over the 4th of July parade. Can the police department shoot it down? I threw this one here because I thought it was funny. No, but you can issue a ticket and report it to the FAA. Drones is getting to be a big thing right now. Now, I found what was amazing is, at IMO, drones were talked about and golf carts. Now, we don't have a problem in Sauk Village and golf carts, but there's a lot of communities, especially where seniors are, they're getting away from driving cars, and they're driving golf carts. So they'll get their golf cart and they'll drive to the local store. So, you know, a lot of these mayors are talking about what ordinances do you have in place to stop this? Or what do you have in place? So, you know, and there's things that they can't do about golf carts. Now, a golf cart, you can say, has to have turning signals and has to have lights and has to have brake lights, right? So they're starting to enforce those. But there's nothing they can do to keep these golf carts off the road. So, you know, we don't have a problem here in Sauk Village. Yes?
We do have handicapped people with their wheelchairs,
Yes.
and they do go down the street. So we don't have anything to cover that, and that's not included with a golf cart, right?
Well, again, you get into a partner in a wheelchair, should they be using sidewalk, should they be using streets if their wheelchair is electronic? Is it safer for them to be on the side of the street? You're right, I mean, I think we only have a few seniors that way, I've seen a few. I haven't seen a large majority of them, like some of these towns with these golf carts.
I came home one night from a meeting, it was dark, and I almost hit this person in the wheelchair. She was all in the dark. You know, I didn't see her until I was just running.
Right.
You know, and we have the sidewalks that allow you to go up and down in a wheelchair.
Not throughout the entire village. We do have it, as we do road repairs and sidewalk repairs, we put those in
Over that front.
for ADA. I know I've talked to someone with the wheelchair. Their problem is, you know, your wheelchairs might have larger tires on the back, but they got these little bitty small tires in the front. So they run into a problem when they're trying to go down the sidewalk. They feel it's safer on the road. So I guess you can look at it a few different ways. If someone's going, I know there's a senior that walks early in the morning already, right? She's got a light in the back of her head, a light in front of her head. She's wearing a vest, orange, with all the reflective all over it, and she's walking down the street, you know? So you can't miss her. So, yes.
Another thing is I see quite a few of them with riding mowers
Riding mowers, yep.
in the streets. I
And
don't
that-
know
that
if
should
they're
probably be
using it
on the
for
street.
transportation or what.
I don't know if they're using transportation. I know I've seen some people use it to drive from yard to yard. They go around. Seems like a lot of these kids nowadays, they have a riding lawnmower and they're going around mowing grass. So, it's probably a lot easier to drive it from place to place than push it. Those things are pretty heavy.
You don't have a trailer.
Yeah, they're not old enough to drive, so they can't have a trailer on a vehicle. So, good conversation here. Here you go. Who sets the agenda for board meetings? It's the board president, mayor, or the administrator establishes the agenda. So, and it's come up. Who puts the agenda up? Well, in our case, the mayor does. Okay. I send the information to the village clerk, and the village clerk puts the agenda together. I approve it, and then it gets sent out to the board of trustees. That's what happens here in Sauk Village. And I'm trying to think. A lot of times, you know, the agenda is if a trustee, like this last week, we saw the rose bush presentation. That came when trustee Tate asked in the previous meeting if we could add Mr. Ed Sullivan to the following agenda, right? I looked at the village clerk and said, please add that to the following agenda. Right? But the mayor sets the agenda. And a lot of times, you know, if a trustee asks, you know, I don't have a problem putting stuff on the agenda. You know, if there needs to be further review or further discussion or getting more information, I may say push this off for a few meetings. We need to bring more information. Let's get some of this information to the remainder of the board. So, let's see here. How can we prevent a board member from repeatedly revisiting an issue after it has been decided? You know, and that's been a question. You know, how can you keep these trustees from talking about stuff over and over and over and over and over? You know, and sometimes I get as tired as you do. And maybe it's my problems because I'm sleeping, right? So, here it is. The board president can rule the member out of order and move to the next item on the agenda. The mayor has the opportunity to do that. You know, a lot of times, I don't do it. I have to be honest with you. I'm pretty free with the board. I let them discuss things, right? Some people are sitting out there rolling their eyes. They're going, come on, just move it along, move it along. You know, I mean, I'll tell you what. It's hilarious because I'm sitting here looking at you, right? The board is looking at each other and me, right? So they can't see this person over here going, come on, right? And I'm trying to keep a straight face, right? Or they can't see this other person going, how many times I gotta say that? Right? I think the best one of all was last board meeting, right? Now, I have people out there in your audience, believe it or not, that doesn't like me, right?
Really?
Really. I'm looking over in this corner, and I just glance over here, and I see a senior acting like a little kid going, you're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar. And you know, when you're trying to run a meeting, and all of a sudden you see that, and then trying to gain my composure to think, man, why that is so childish. So then I look over here and I continue to try to run the meeting. And as I go over here, as soon as she catches my eye, she goes, you're lying, you're lying. So you have to imagine when you're sitting in the mayor's position looking out here, it's kind of hilarious sometimes. And people are like, what's his problem? Why is he laughing? This subject is not funny. So, and you're right, the subject's probably not funny, but the people out there looking at you, giving you the faces and stuff, it's hilarious. I said the other day, I've got to have a camera behind me that faces the audience. So they can see what I'm seeing, right? So, let's see, halfway point, it says, the next part says, alternatively, board members can call a point of order to remind the board president to take control of the meeting and to move to the next business item. Okay? You guys start talking to your board of trustees. If you feel that meetings are going on and on and on, and things are being said over and over and over, my job is to move to the next agenda, move to the next item. But you've got to start talking to your trustees and say, you know, you got to start calling point of order. Now, we didn't tell them. Enforce the ordinance. The ordinance says trustees can only talk about items 2 or 3 times. Move on. You need to say, you make me have 3 minutes to give comments, which they want to move up to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But you've got trustees sitting up there that go on and on and on and on and on.
All night long.
Talk to your trustees. Enforce it. And I'll do my job by enforcing and moving to the next item. Okay? This is stuff that's been brought up in these meetings. What can we do about a board member who repeatedly interrupts other members? That would never happen. Let's see here. The board can adopt a rule that members can only speak when recognized by the president, who is the chair of the committee. We already got that. Again, I'm pretty free, right? If a trustee wants to say something, I don't look at him and say, Trustee Williams, you have the floor. Right? Usually they raise their hand and they start talking. I'm pretty free about it. But if we get to a point where they don't, if the board is going to continue, or if they start interrupting members, we'll start enforcing the ordinance. Again, bring order and decorum. That's what's important, right? So as we start to do this, you'll know why we're doing it, right? You've asked the questions here. You've asked the questions in the board meetings. We've got the answers. Now it's my job to start enforcing it, right? As your mayor. All right? What can you do if a board member has taken over debate on the particular agenda item and refuses to let other members speak or give the floor back to the president? I've always asked this question too. I'm glad we went to this meeting. A board member might move to call the question, which will bring the item to a vote. There must have been a motion and a second on the floor to approve the item before the procedural tactic will work. They call it tactic, right? So here's what happens. There's already a motion and a second on the floor. Because that's when it comes up to question, right? Question and comments from the board. There's a motion and a second. All of a sudden you have a trustee that takes over the floor and just goes on and on and on and on. Won't sit down, won't let another trustee talk. A trustee, and this is what you need to tell your trustees, and say, call the question. Mayor, call the question. That shuts the trustee down, who's holding the floor. And we go for immediate vote. Then, you've asked, what can we do to make these meetings more in order? You know, what do you do about a trustee who won't sit down and is using it for a soapbox? I think that's been one of the questions before. Here it goes. It says, though, if the board member is not ready to vote, one could call for point of order. This is to remind the president to take control of the meeting. So they can either say, call the question, which says, where the mayor says, village clerk, please call roll. Or they can say, point of order, which gives the mayor the opportunity to try to bring the meeting back to order. If a trustee still will not release to the floor and continues to go on, someone can call the question and we'll go to immediate vote. And we move on to the next item. All right? What can a board do if a member breaches? Oh, here you go. What can a board do if a member breaches the confidentiality of a closed session and passes data on to other parties, including the other side, on issues discussed in closed session? This is an issue. This is a major issue because we have this issue here in Sauk Village. There you go. First of all, it says not much. You know, how many times have you sat in these meetings and even in this meeting, someone said, You guys go in that back room. Why are you going in that back room when we already know what was discussed before you even come out the door? How many times have I heard that? You know? Or, you know, you're back there talking and there's people back there listening to conversations back there in the corner. They already know what you're talking about. You know? Or you walk out of the back room, you adjourn the meeting, and it's all over Facebook within a half an hour. How many times have I heard that? I mean, I've gotten calls on the way home from leaving here saying, did you discuss this in executive session? I said, I can't tell you if I discussed this in executive session. Well, this is what they're saying on Facebook. I said, well, they can say whatever they want on Facebook. I'm not telling you if we discussed this. Goodbye. Right? Says not much. However, there's a word in here called although. I love these words. Although. Although the board can censor that individual by a motion or resolution, it can file an injunction lawsuit and can report the action if properly documented to the local state's attorney. As far as I'm saying on that one. I think one thing, documentation is important. There you go, next one. Can a member of the public demand an answer to a question from a board member or staff member during public comment? Who wants to answer this? Before you see the answer.
You know,
Yes.
I want to answer that.
Huh?
No.
No, you're correct.
Mm-hmm.
People come up here in this stand and say, I demand an answer. I'm not leaving here until you answer my question. You never answer my questions, Mr. Mayor. How many times have we heard that, right? Answer is no. Members of the public have the right to address members of the public body, but they have no right to interrogate them or library staff members, and the PAC agreed in recent non-binding opinions. Who knows what the PAC is? The PAC is a board that reviews the Open Meetings Act and gives their opinions on the answers, right? So this is something that someone has already took to the PAC and said, I went to a board meeting, no one ever answered my question. The PAC says, well, you know, they don't have to answer your questions. In all reality, I mean, I try to answer questions, I really do. And I don't answer all questions. You know, I've heard people say it all the time, well, Mary, you don't answer all the questions. You're right, I don't. I tell you, you'd have to be a genius to answer some of these questions, right? I had a question, a couple of months ago, asked me about some money that was supposed to be spent in 2012. I don't know. I really don't. I can't tell you what my wife spent at the store yesterday, right? So, you know, the binding agreement is that you have to have comment time where a resident can come up and make a comment, they can ask a question, they can do whatever they want, you know, according to your ordinance. And all you have to really say is, thank you for your comments. Or you can say, I'm turning this over to staff, which I've been starting to do lately. Because that was one of the recommendations that was made on one of the classes I took as mayor. That, you know what, as mayor, you don't do everything, right? As mayor, I'm not running the police department, I'm a police chief. As mayor, I'm not running, you know, I run the administration, but I have an administrator who's here during the day. The village has administrators. I don't run the public works department, although I am in charge of the department head. I have Kevin, right? So as mayor, you know, one of the things that they've made recommendations is, as mayor, is you say, you know, thank you for that information, or thank you for those comments, and you direct it to your staff to handle those issues. That's why, who was at the last board meeting, and I said, the chief is standing in that back room, is standing at that back door. I encourage you to go talk to the chief. Because the chief is the one who's going to direct the police officers and tell them to take care of this matter. Kevin is the one who's going to direct the public works officer, or public works department, and tell them to go fix these potholes. You know? It can go on and on. All right? So, the public does not have the right to demand an answer, yes.
Yeah, that's what I want to say right there. Because we want to make sure that we understand. Frank Williams don't have no right to go tell Kevin he's got to go out there and fix nothing, right?
Correct.
That has to come from direct. He comes to you, then you send him money. I don't have no right to do that. But people get this idea because, well, I'm going to call Kevin and tell him to come fix it. You can't call Kevin to come fix it. You can call the public authority and ask them to tell Kevin to do it. This is the thing. The same thing is when people say, now I listen to questions from people that's coming here. And they might say, well, Mr. Mayor, this fire hydrant on 223rd Street is not fixed. Now the next person gets back up there and says, the fire hydrant, same fire hydrant on 223rd Place is not fixed. See, all that to me, Mr. Mayor, it's just not necessary. When we come to this meeting, I expect to come to this meeting and with a question asking you. And don't get mad because you don't answer the question, it's put in a different word. I don't like that. If a person come up here and have a legitimate question, and I believe that you will answer it, but when you come up there talking about, last week, it was the same question about the water. Then this week, next week comes and what a fire hydrant. To me, that's just a waste of our time. That's why I don't have no problem with you come to the mic and talk. But they must come up there and talk about something that you, me, or the trustee can go to work and answer and move on. But just bring that same question back week after week after week is not something to be allowed.
Well, I took one of the questions in here. I took one of the questions out. I thought it was a good one. And let's see if I can remember the wording. Can a board only take questions on positive questions, and all negative questions make the residents put it in writing? Right? Who thinks anyone will answer that one? It's pretty obvious. That's why I took it out. The answer is no. But these are questions that municipalities have either tried to enforce or they're looking to enforce. That's why they talk about it. You know, we're not the only one that has people come up and maybe ask negative questions or questions that are over and over and over and over. We're not the only community. That was so important at IML. They discussed it with the hundreds of municipalities that were there. Okay? So, yes.
I have a question on fire hydrants.
Okay.
Now, you put out a news release saying there were 56 fire hydrants out of service a couple months ago, or 2 months ago, wherever it was.
Okay.
Okay. Now, in response to a FOIA request, Kevin did say there was 56 fire hydrants out of service. However, as you drive through the village, you see a lot of these workmen horses over fire hydrants, and those fire hydrants are not listed on the report that you generated. Now, my question, and it's an ongoing question, is that if you say 56 are out of service, which have been out of service since 2009, every last one of them, according to the report you generated. Now, the 20 or so that I'm talking about that's in the village with the horse in there, and I asked Kevin why weren't they included on the list, and he said, well, we're working on it. But, however, they're not working, so I want to know why those 20 are not included with the 56, because 56 is not the actual number that's out of service. You have additional whatever they're working on right now. Those things are not in service either. And they're clearly stated, in fact, the one on Torrance and I think 203 has an out of service sign on there. You have about 2 or 3 of them. One right across the street from the fire department has just been replaced. That was sitting up there about 3 or 4 months, but that wasn't included on the report. So my saying is that the report that you've given us is sort of misleading, and then you find out something else and you come back and ask the question because the data is confusing, and that's why people come back and ask you the same thing, because it's not really accurate what's given out. So I want to know how you're going to combat that sort of situation.
Let's talk a little about that. If I remember right, and I don't have the report from you that we put out. That report was based off of as a certain date. Okay. Now, when you look at fire hydrants is a moving target. Okay.
I'm sorry,
fire hydrants is a moving target. You may have 50 at this date. Tomorrow, you may end up having almost 60. I mean, those numbers are exaggerated. The reason I say that is because, number one, you can go out there and you can open up a valve, and all of a sudden you have a bolt that breaks. That one goes off, and that has to be repaired. You have another problem where residents are hitting these fire hydrants. And maybe they're not residents. I'm not pointing all the blame toward residents. Is we're having fire hydrants that are being hit and damaged. Now, this stays in my office all the time except for I'm having these meetings. Right? This right here can tell you where all the fire hydrants that are either been repaired, are under repair, or need to be repaired. So when you look at this, and we talked about this right at the very beginning, and I got no problem going over this again, you feel free to come up here, and as something gets repaired, or as something starts to get repaired, the stars change. When I came in office, there was over 100 fire hydrants that were not working, okay? We have been working on this over the year, we've gotten that number down. And then, like I said at the beginning of the meeting, my goal was to have all green stars on this, okay? 2017, if people say, I want someone else in this office, I won't be able to say, that's all green. This is something to point to, okay? I meet with Kevin on this all the time. Kevin, where are we on this, okay? So, I mean, if you look at here, this was a red star, it's green. Red star, green. Red star, it's not green. That means these have been repaired and fixed, okay, or replaced. You look up here where these were red stars, in some of these areas, you can see the yellow stars over them, and these are already under, they've already started working on them. They've already broken them open, they found what the problems are. They've either ordered parts, or they're on the list to be repaired so that it becomes a green star, okay? We've also already looked at, there's some work that our Public Works cannot do. So we're bringing in contractual work to do that work so that they can address some of these areas. We've got some valves in the ground that our Public Works department cannot get to. Okay, that's contractual service. We're bringing them in there to fix those valves so we can start addressing some of these other areas, because without those valves being repaired, we cannot repair some of these. So anyone can look at this. Anyone can look at this. Again, this is in my office, and it gets updated weekly. I'm constantly asking Kevin, how many fire hydrants have we started working on this week? How many fire hydrants have been repaired? What's the goal? You don't see them working on weekends. You know, there may be some fire hydrants they've already started prepping because they know they have to be repaired. So throughout the week, they make after the backhoes start digging it up and everything. So then on weekend, they can just drop the fire hydrant in and get it repaired. Sometimes when they remove these fire hydrants, there's work that has to be done in the ground because the pipes and stuff coming out of the ground have got to be repaired. They have to put new sleeves and stuff on them. So there's additional work that they get into. So, you know, again, I tell everyone, this stays in front of my face every time I walk in my office. It's right there facing my desk.
But it
So
does us.
this is something that we are addressing. This is something that we are going after to repair and replace. And like I said, these targets are moving. So if someone comes through today and hits a fire hydrant, on Monday, Kevin's going to be coming here and put a red star saying this one's down now.
Well, I understand that, but, I mean, it's in your office.
I bring it out and show the residents.
And, you know,
So it's out here today. Whenever I'm meeting
well, I
with
mean,
residents.
it's in your office, but, and you just told them you get some contractor services to work on the fire hydrant.
Well, no, they're working on
No.
fire hydrants. They're working on valves and stuff.
Valves.
So our water
Okay.
department works to replace those fire hydrants to
Okay.
repair them.
My question is, it's in your office. How do residents know that? And there's a big question about the fire hydrants. And, you know, we've been working on this project with you for the last 2 years and stuff. So, I mean, the whole thing, this is more information that you have given us on and on and on and on. And we shouldn't have to come and ask for, you know,
Well, again,
updates and
I
stuff.
could
I
take,
mean, it would be nice to get an update, you know, voluntary update. You see what I mean? So people won't be so, you know, apprehensive about, you know, that'll save you a FOIA request, in other words.
that's a problem. Again, I could take a picture of this every week, and every week it'd look different.
Well, I mean,
So,
just give us a little update or something. I mean, Kevin has the information there. It wouldn't hurt us to get information if that's something you're interested in. And we asking about it. Why not give us an update every week? That's what the Sauk doc is for, I thought. But, you know, stuff like that, or either give us a little thing to put on the table out there or something like that, update on what's going on.
And I'll tell you what, next Sauk Talk, I'll work on putting an update together on fire hydrants for the next Sauk Talk. That's a good idea.
And it'll save me some FOIA requests.
But you're not FOIA anyway, if I can report.
No, I'm not. If you give me information, I will ask. Yeah.
All right. Pat?
If a fire hydrant is hit by a vehicle or whatever happens to it, some of those, when they're hit by a car or something happens, it takes time to deal with the insurance company, because the fire hydrant on my corner was hit by a vehicle, and it took several months, because that's costly, first of all. The insurance company gets involved, and by the time they get that replacement and get it repaired, it took, I can't remember exactly how many months it took, but it wasn't an overnight thing. But I think the fire department made sure too, they try to make sure that there is a working hydrant. If they know one is down, they know in a certain length of space, there is a working hydrant that they're,
Within the period.
the hose will
Right.
reach.
And again-
So that they are safe.
Right, and you bring a good point, because number one, if an individual who hits a fire hydrant, if they're good stewards, they're gonna call the police department and say, I damaged this one, and then we're gonna file for their insurance company. A lot of times people are hitting these fire hydrants and just leaving it. So someone might wake up the next morning and see I have a fire hydrant that's laying on the ground, in front of my house. I went off one morning, I had a fire hydrant in front of my house on the corner. Next morning I come through, there's tire tracks, and the fire hydrant's completely laid over on the ground like this. So, and I tell everyone all the time, I tell Kevin, I said, as much as I want a fire hydrant on my corner, I said, I want fire hydrants replaced somewhere else in Sauk Village first. So, and I told him, I said, if we can do it, make my fire hydrant the last one that gets replaced. So, right now in my corner, there's no fire hydrant, it's completely gone. So, but, the fire department's very aware of the fire hydrants that are not working. They work very closely with Public Works. We automatically bring in pumpers to every single fire. I think I've said this before, pumper goes to a fire call as soon as there's a fire call. Another pumper from another community comes and sits inside our fire station parking lot. If they end up using all the water, get close into the water in that pumper leaves, that fire department goes to the fire call, another pumper from another department comes and sits in our fire department. So we always have two pumpers sitting in Sauk Village at all times during a fire call. So there is those things. The other thing too is we worked out that if fire department arrives to a fire scene and they go to turn on a fire hydrant and a bolt breaks or anything happens, they call Public Works out. Public Works comes out, okay, even be during the fire call. They're coming out to see what the problem is, why that's not working, and to get it repaired as soon as possible. Especially if it's a bolt or something like that, they can get in there and replace those bolts. Those are somewhat pretty easy. So, some of the numbers people don't really realize. Number one, I came in with over 100 fire hydrants not working. Okay, that number has decreased. And at the same time, Sauk Village itself owns over, I should have these numbers in front of me, because they're in the last report. So don't quote me on this, okay? I think it's over 500 fire hydrants that we own, right? We've got that number down, and I think that number now is probably down closer to, 60, 70 fire hydrants that are not working right now, okay? In Sauk Village alone, there's over 700 fire hydrants, that's including private properties. So you think private property, Canada Village, Weatherstone, you get into our industrial areas, they own their own fire hydrants. Some of the malls and stuff, they own their own fire hydrants. So, there's quite a few fire hydrants that they're keeping up with. So, all right, let's see here. I think we covered this one, right? Not. Are citizens allowed to speak about every issue at the time it comes before the board? I think we know this one, right? Yes, we know. All right. So the time for citizens' questions and comments can be limited as long as the rule is fairly implemented and the board has adopted a written policy for public comment, which we have. And this right now is before the board, it's before the Ordinance Review Committee, right? To look at, it came to the board, went to Ordinance Review Committee, Ordinance Review Committee came back with their recommendations, the board sent back to Ordinance Review Committee, and Ordinance Review Committee should be sending it back to the board hopefully shortly, in a long time. Can a public body remove a member of the public from a meeting for being destructive? That came up a few months ago, right? Mayor, why aren't you removing these people? Right? What are you going to do about it? Well, we've got the answer now, really. Who thinks you can remove someone from being destructive? Who thinks you can? The answer is yes. The Attorney General found no violation of the Open Meeting Act where a public body removed a member of the public for disruptive behavior for a meeting. Here, I love this one. Similar, the Attorney General found no violation when a member of the public body interrupted a member of the public in a public comment. So, if you get up here and you get upset because someone on the board is interrupting you, oh well. But if you're disruptive, you can be removed. All right? And again, we've had questions. Mayor, why don't you have police officers standing in the back? You know, the police chief, he doesn't work nights, you know, he works all the time. He was here the other night, okay? But he's not here to keep order. He's here to listen to you and see what's going on. You know, he wants to be able to do his job better. But, you know, I've said it before, I'm not in favor of having a police officer standing in back babysitting full-grown adults, right? You know, it's a shame that we have to have police officers in our schools, right? What kind of message did it send to our kids? Say we have to have police officers sitting at a board meeting because adults can't act, you know, like adults should act, right? So it's a wrong message. It's wrong we have to have police officers in our schools. It would really be wrong if we had to have police officers sitting here like we had to have in the previous administration. It's uncalled for. What's the next one? Can the board limit the time that a trustee or president can speak? Yes. As long as the period is reasonable and the parties get to participate. We just talked about this, right? Talk to your trustees. If you're tired of trustees talking on and on and on, you're tired of even the mayor. Says limit the time that a trustee or president can speak. Bring it to your board of trustees and say, you know what? You're limiting me. I want you limited. You want meetings to go quicker? You want meetings to be in order and decorum? You want decorum and order? Limit your trustees and limit your mayor. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you can't. You have to get the board to approve it. Interesting. Who is responsible for the minutes? That came up a few months ago, right? Let's see, the clerk is generally responsible for preparing the minutes. However, it is the board who approves the minutes. I think that's pretty much what we said, right? The village clerk prepares them, presents it to the board. During a board meeting, we vote to approve the minutes that are before the board. Right? Oh, I threw this on here because I thought it was funny. Because I found out we're not the only town with the insane bog of water. All right, we have an insane, I didn't write this, so I would have called him a hack, I would have called him everything, but we have an insane blogger that comes to our meetings and then writes untrue or slandered articles about them. Can we ban this person from our meetings? Sauk Village isn't the only problem. Doesn't that make you feel better? There's other insane weirdos out there. and talking to other mayors, the funny thing is, they're crazy people don't live in their communities either. It's probably because if they did it in their own community, they'd probably be thrown out. But I don't know. It's funny. You know, no, you can't stop them from your meetings. We already know the answer to that, right? You know, you just got to put up with their insanity, right? You got to put up with them being weird and, you know, mentally ill. You know, so. That's what you got to put up with. You put up with their lies, you know, again. And the thing is, I talked to other mayors, you know, this isn't new. This is happening in communities across the state of Illinois. It's amazing to hear some of the things that's going on in some of these communities. And I think about, you know, we don't have it so bad. Anyway, got a few weirdos. So, I loved it. They talked about this one community in southern Illinois. This group of weirdos came walking in, you know, and tried putting the whole entire board under arrest. I was like, wow, I'm just sitting in a meeting. You know, and then they turn around and they end up calling the county police to try to come in, and the police officers came in, they're like, we want you to arrest, you know, because the board sat there, they didn't go anywhere. You know, they waited for the police to come. They said, we want you to arrest them. Okay. Now, granted, they didn't get arrested, but you know, just to hear some of these stories about the insanity, and you listen to some of these mayors that talk about, yeah, I got these bloggers in my town, they say this and this, and you know, it makes you wonder what meeting they were at. You know, they're one-sided, you know, so, you know, we've got, I just laugh, I say, we've got the same problem. You know, it's everywhere. So, you know, they're doing their best to get their person elected in the next election because they want a position within their government. You know, it's not just Sauk Village. It's everywhere. And that's when you find out about these bloggers, it's all about the end position they're going to have within that community. Every single mayor I talk to talks about how they're supporting their own candidates because they want a position within the government. It's amazing. Oh, this came up. Remember a few months ago, everyone said people are going around with cameras in their faces, and remember we had that problem there in the board meeting? Like, what are we going to do about it? Let's see here. It says, but this is a little bit different, but I mean, we have a little bit. It says, a disgruntled former employee has now started a local cable television show. He runs around the meeting with a camera trying to tape us from the worst angles. Can we stop him? Remember you said that, I don't know how many people were here, but maybe it was 4 or 5 months ago. We had an incident right before, the Tuesday night before we had our meeting, where an individual, wasn't a former employee, was a former trustee, was running around with their camera and coming all the way to the front row and getting in front of people's faces, right? And people came to me and said, what are you going to do about it? Okay? Well, the answer is, you cannot ban him from recording your meetings, but you can adopt reasonable rules regarding the recording of minutes. Of meetings, I'm sorry. I should have my glasses on when reading this. Again, go to your trustees. Say, you know what? You can put together reasonable rules regarding the recording of meetings. Yeah.
Is there a difference between, obviously what happens here is public, is there a difference what happens out on the street per se, if a person's coming and, taking pictures of you or your house or your property? It's one thing if someone wants to come by and take a picture, it's another thing when you know they're taking pictures, to fabricate something. Is there a difference between public and private?
There is a little bit of difference. When you're an elected official, you pretty much put yourself under the microscope, right? So you can expect people are going to be driving by your house to see where you live. People are going to come by taking pictures. And, the problem is, I think sometimes people don't realize, while I may be an elected official, my family is not elected officials, right? They shouldn't have to put up, just like any other trustee, shouldn't have to put up people harassing their wives or their kids, things like that, right? And they support their spouse, their husband. They support them in the position that they're in. But they should not be the ones who are being attacked. And I think in the last probably 6 years, we've seen a total change. When I started running for politics, let me give you an example. When I started running for politics in 1999, in fact, I started running before that. Okay, but I was first elected to office in 1999. You did not attack a person's family. You did not. It was an unwritten rule. You didn't talk about their parents. You didn't talk about their grandparents. You didn't talk about their wives or their husbands. You didn't talk about their kids. Now, your opponent could have had the worst kids out there, but you didn't say anything about their kids. Their wife could have been a holy terror, but you didn't say anything about their wife. When you ran for office, it was between you and the individual you're running against. In the last 6 years, we've seen a totally different change. We've seen where people are going up and they attack people's families. And again, it's terrible attacks or lies, and they don't care. I face attacks all the time because my father has been dead, what now, 10 years? 10 years this year? 10 years he's been dead. And I still get attacked because of him. Attacks for things that he did, things that happened that my father was involved with when I was approximately 10 years old. And they want to put it on me. 1999, and in fact, up to the last 6 years, you never attacked a person's family. You definitely didn't talk about someone who was dead. That was just political suicide. You didn't bring up a word about the dead. You respected the dead, right? So, again, it's ludicrous.
I'm not an elected official, but my house has been out there on Facebook. My name has been trashed. My son has been degraded, and he passed away. But that's how low certain people go.
Yeah, I think,
Well, they have nothing they can say, that, look, this is what I've done that can help. They can only say,
well,
how bad you are.
it gets back to the previous question about insane bloggers. You know, they're mentally ill. They are obsessed to try to destroy someone, all for political gain. That's all it is. And the town, and to destroy a town. That's what it is.
Can you imagine what it would be if these people put positive things about everything, what this town could be? Do you have a copy of that so everybody can have it?
You know, I may put this on my my mayor's Facebook page.
So where everybody can read that.
How about a handout?
I don't have a handout. You know, I get to a point where if I make this public, then you get FOIA and you get all kinds of issues. Now, the best thing for me to do is probably put it on my mayor. You know what I might do is, I have a blog page, I don't know if anyone knows now, that I start putting stuff on my Facebook page, on my Facebook page. If you click on it, it takes you to my blog. I may put this out on my blog so that it's available. You see if I can get a presentation like this to blog. So, yes.
Do the trustees get this information?
Trust-
Well, put this, how many of the trustees went to these meetings?
2 of us went to this meeting, one of the trustees and I, but all the trustees have got this information. I asked Trustee Williams to get a copy for every single trustee. So. All right, we're getting close to the end. I want to jump in here real quick. As everyone knows, we have a new village administrator who came in a few months ago. This is something that I put out, and it's also in the Sauk Talk. In case you haven't got to meet him yet, his name is J.W. Fairman. It's in the Sauk Talk. You can take a look at his bio. Again, he's a major help. He's got a that's right. I always tell people, you know, when it comes to JW, it's kind of like me. Either you love him or you hate him, right? I don't think there's anyone in the medium that says, you know, I don't agree with you. Or usually they hate me or they love me. I don't know. I just JW's the same way. I have people come in here all the time and say, man, I tell you, I'm glad you got village administrator on. I'm glad he's doing a great job. And then I got a complaint the other day that says, that guy's no good, man. I came in here the other day with a ticket. He didn't do anything about it. Okay. You know, now I can ask this, what's he supposed to do with it? I mean, you get a ticket, he's not the one that wrote it, right? JW? I had another complaint. Person didn't pay the water bill. And he tried to work with them, they wouldn't work. You know, they got their water turned off. You know, man, that village administrator, he's no good, he turned my water off. Oh. You turned it off, did you have a bill? Yeah, I had a bill. Okay. You know, how many months were behind were you? And of course, it's always the village administrator's problem, right? Well, when I go off and do a little bit of research, you know, I'm like, hey, JW, I said, man, you got a person out here that hates you. You turn their water off. Why did you turn it off? But they haven't paid a bill in the last 3 cycles. Had over $1,000 water bill. You know, he goes, I tried working something out with them. They refused to put any money down. They refused to pay anything because we had no other option. So, you know, he's out there. He's working every day. He's another one that never sleeps. He's here in the mornings. We have meetings. He's here when I get off work. We're usually meeting probably just about every night over stuff. He comes in. He's here late at night. He's working with the department heads in the mornings or early mornings. He's been attending a lot of events on my behalf. You know, as mayor, I have a full-time job. There's a lot of events that happen throughout the day that I'm unable to attend. This last week, he just got done attending an event with Governor Rauner. And I talked to him. He's like, hey, I got a picture with the governor. And I turned around, he asked me how things are going. I said things would be great, and asked him to release the money. So I mean, him and the governor had a good giggle back and forth. But he's out there representing Sauk Village. That's what's important. As you all know, under the last budget, we no longer have our lobbying group, right? We had Al Roman as our lobbyist, who was in Springfield all the time. So he was always lobbying, always getting Sauk Village name out there. The board thought that $3,000 a month was too much, about $36,000 a year, I think it was. So we were able to use that money to bring JW in. So JW is doing his job. He's doing the stuff that the lobbyist was doing. He's attending these meetings. He's been going to South Carolina Mayors and Managers. He's been going out to the Mayor's Caucus meetings for me. I'm trying to think. He went to the Chamber of Commerce, one of my Chamber of Commerce meetings. You know, he went to the Realtors meetings. These are all meetings that happen during the day. He's out there representing Sauk Village. He's getting the information, bringing it back, and making sure that Sauk Village face is in front of these elected officials. So he's doing a great job, and I appreciate everything that he's doing. So and I think this is my last slide. He was here the other night. There's our new police chief, Chief Robert Kowalski. I was giving Sherry a hard time. That's another Polak's name I have to learn. So she was giving me a hard time. It took me forever to learn Sherry's last name. Sherry Jasinski, right? So, but he's funny. I tell you, he comes up, he's got some Polak jokes that are unbelievable. Yeah, he'll crack you up. You know, he makes fun of himself sometimes. But, again, someone with the expertise, the training, the know-how, to get out there, fight crime, and that's what's important. Get our department, I would say, probably back where it needs to be. He's going to be coming for the village board probably within the next month or so. I don't know if we're going to do it this year or the beginning of next year with some recommendations. He's already been talking to me about saying, you know what, this would be great to have, this is great to have. He's at everything just about. I'm surprised he's not here today, to be honest with you. You know, he was here a few weeks ago on his own time collecting pharmaceutical drugs, right? So people could turn in. He was here himself doing that. He attends events. He attends committee meetings. He attends board meetings. He's out there on the streets. This is something we haven't seen in quite a long time. Someone who's this involved in our community. So he wants to hear from you, the residents. He's got some meetings coming up with local businesses. He's trying to get some meetings with some of the pastors in the community, find out what's happening from that point. He'll be coming from the village board, making some recommendations. He's out there. He's getting information from the committees. I think he attended Gerald's committee last Tuesday night. He's going to Neighborhood Watch. I can't remember when that is, but if you already did or not. To the Neighborhood Watch meetings. He wants to get out there. And he wants to absorb everything. So if you've got something, if you've got issues on your streets, if you've got issues in your neighborhood, bring that information to him. I always tell people that, you know, the wheels of justice are slow, right? Things aren't going to happen overnight, but he will take the information and move forward. And I think some of the residents can say, I've already started seeing changes. So, you know, before residents would come to me and say, I gave this information across the parking lot. Nothing's happening. These guys are out here selling drugs. These kids are standing on the corners. Nothing's happening. I come down here and make complaint after complaint after complaint. I've heard nothing about, I haven't heard that since the new chief's been on board. In fact, I've heard residents come back and say, thank you, I'm glad you got someone in there now, so I'm doing something. That's what's important. So, going through the right, hiring someone who's the right person for that job, and he's definitely the right person, and he's hit the ground running. So, I think that was my last slide, only because I ran out of time. I had a bunch more I wanted to put on there, but we still got about a half an hour that we're here, and I know we took some questions in the beginning throughout the presentation. Real quick, this is information that we're trying to find out for sure. Did everyone receive Sauk Talk at their house? Okay, can you read it over there? No? You didn't? Okay. Sauk Talk's important. We need the information to the village clerk, so we need to find out who did not receive them. But Sauk Talk did come out. The financials are out for the first quarter. And overall, we're looking pretty good for the first quarter. The second quarter financials will be coming out, I think, next month. I think that might be right. So this is something we will provide the residents every single quarter, let you know where we're at when it comes financially. As we continue to talk about, the budget this last year was the worst case scenario, right? Things that the governor said he was going to withhold from municipalities, knowing that we were going to lose certain funds. So When we look at this budget, think about this. This was a worst-case scenario budget, and we're still in the first quarter doing pretty good. So, and it's not because of me, because we've got good department heads that are watching their budget, that are prioritizing the most important issues and addressing those, and spending the money wisely. So that's where we're at out here. So there's some other things in here. I know we talked about 911 center. Our 911 center is now moved all the way to Cal Park. So they're up and running. We talk about shared services, 911 centers across the state of Illinois. Kind of give you an example here. It talks about all the communities who have joint dispatch centers and the amount of joint dispatch centers within this area. So, you know, everyone talks about, you know, why did we do this? There was multiple reasons why we did this. Okay. Number one was a very tough decision. I've lived in Sauk Village probably not as long as most of you sitting here. And I've been here for over 40 years. You know, when I was a teenager, I was a cadet on the police department. So a lot of people in the police department I still know. Okay? It was a very tough decision, but here, take a look at this. The proposed budget for the dispatch center for this next year, the proposed budget was over $600,000 a year. That was for 5 employees to run a 24/7 outfit or department. Only 5 people. Over 600,000. We're going to a joint dispatch center for $285,000. No longer benefits, employees' wages, insurances, grievances, union contracts, because they were union.
Under the new Illinois codes, and one of my employees works at 911 center, they're only allowed to work so long. How can 5 people work 24/7?
We had some issues, and I'll tell you why. Again, when looking at the joint dispatch center, we had issues with personnel, and we were dealing with unions, so it made it very difficult to hire additional people because of the union scale. The equipment that we had was outdated. We had to put more money into the equipment. That $600,000 budgeted for next year did not include new equipment. New equipment, we were looking at probably right around $2 million to bring us up to where we're supposed to be. Okay. There's other issues, I don't have them written down in front of me, that when you make a decision like that, you have to lay everything out. To the village residents, that was a cost savings of about almost $320,000 a year for cost savings to go to an outside joint dispatch center. So now that joint dispatch center is responsibility for paying their employees, training their employees, you know, doing everything. So, major, yes.
Also, when you deal with the public sector union, they're real tough in negotiations. What type of negotiations did you have with those people? Trying to get a contract?
I gotta be careful what I'm saying, you're right, you know, negotiations with the police department. It's difficult when it comes to negotiating with unions, especially at a municipal level, okay? And I understand, you know, when you first start going out, I was union at one time. I was steelworkers unions back in the early 80s. And then I was boiler makers and boiler and ship makers. And that lasted all the way through the early 90s. So, you know, I was union. And I understand how negotiations work. You know, when we were a union, we asked for the moon, and they went back and forth, right? So, you know, there's just some things that people don't budge on. And where is it? Is it the northwest suburbs? Right now, there's a school that's been on strike for 7 days now.
Henry.
I just heard that the kids are not even going to have their homecoming because the teachers are on strike. So who suffers here? while people are out because they don't think they're making enough money or they want better benefits, we've got kids that are suffering. And I wonder how many of those kids are seniors or going to the next grade, that they won't even have a homecoming this year because people are arguing over, or most of the time it is money. That's our biggest thing, especially with our union, it's mostly money. They're not asking for, I can't say too much, but most of the time our issues are money issues when it comes to our unions. So, but again, like I said, it was a tough decision. But it was a decision that had to be made. So, yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the other day they had in the paper that there are 5 towns in Indiana, and Cherville, Munster, and them, that are also going to this combined 911. So it's not just here, it's...
A lot of people don't know, but in Illinois it's mandated, I think, within the next so many years you have to go to a joint dispatch.
It makes sense.
Right? Or you have to go to a joint dispatch that covers at least something like 25,000, or, don't quote me on these numbers. I got some numbers in my head right now. But it gives a set amount saying you have to have, your dispatch center has to cover this amount of people, which is forcing communities to go to joint dispatching.
Did you foresee, obviously, what you just said about that would have been forced on us, and the upgrades of over $2 million, not counting personnel and all that. Well, I don't remember how many years ago it was now, when the fire department had to face the issue of not having paramedics anymore.
Right.
Again, they weren't qualified, not because they were bad people, but the state had certain requirements that they hadn't met. Is that what was going to be happening here also, that we weren't going to meet these requirements? And we really better get the jump on the gun than be forced to do it?
Yeah, number one, we weren't going to meet the requirements. So for us to meet the requirements, we would have looked at either taking loans out or floating some bonds, things like that, putting the village further in debt. The other thing we looked at was, the reason we went to joint dispatch was, first of all, it was kind of exploratory, right? We hear other towns, I was talking to, right before we went, Stager went to joint dispatch center and they saved over $200,000. And I talked to another community, they said they saved over almost $400,000, right? So I thought, it doesn't hurt to explore. We went to the board and said, these communities have said they're saving money. And the board said, go ahead and start doing the exploring. Well, when we started doing the exploring, it was unbelievable to find out, like I said, almost $320,000. Over 10 years, that's $5 million to the village residents. So, when you start looking at those kind of numbers.
You probably don't know this, I don't know if I should say it or not, but see that one guy that works for me, 2 of our dispatch employees went to the call center where he works to get a job, and I hired him, and within 6 weeks they had to fire him because they didn't know what they were doing. So they were hired and then fired because they were unqualified to work on the new systems. Just to make them bad people, they were not qualified enough to work in these.
Because of the new equipment,
Sure.
I mean, you take for an example right now, I don't know, my cell phone for an example, just use that for an example compared to me. Now, my cell phone can direct me to anywhere I want to go. Well, I didn't know this until the kids said, I told you, put me with this simple, Frank, use your phone, it got GPS on it. Well, if I'm out there lost, Frank is just lost without that GPS, because Frank don't know what he's doing. That's the whole bottom line. A lot of things people know to you. Look at now, things have changed. And when these people leave here, it's just like this morning when you're giving the presentation with that water. People have to understand that before we had 12, just give it 12. Now you cut that in half. It takes at least 3 people to fix that pot house. What if somebody said, well, now wait a minute, there's a water main that broke over there. You take 3 more people that broke over there and say, well, okay, on 2, we can't be in all those different places. We must understand, and this is what I just do. Please don't get this wrong. What I want these people to come to this meeting and understand, there's only so much that we can do. When you turn around and say, somebody over $1,000 water bill and I can't pay it, you get 3 people doing that. And they say, it's a big hurt. And then you want to go to work and say, well, do you want to put a light over here? they have to be able to, these are grown people. They should be able to come and see it just like at your own house, is what they say. Me and Debbie used to eat hot dogs and beans today, tomorrow eat beans and hot dogs. That's what we use. So you must understand, there's been a type of business stuff, but we're moving so fast to these people that wants to keep pulling it back, wants to keep bringing up stuff that has no bearings on the case, and honest to God, man, I just don't understand. I get so frustrated. I can't get up and talk because I get frustrated when I get there, listen to those conversations. But they must understand there's only so much that you can do, especially when you get one person sitting up on that board, if you say yes, he wants to say no, and then want to carry on the conversation for 2 hours. See, the guy is just so sad that they're that way. Honest to God, we're going to move the village forward. Okay, tell me where have we went forward? All you do is keep getting to talk about bad things. So we have to be qualified to do a job. But I can see, what you said, you went over there and got fired. Well, so I can see they're not qualified to do their job. So I'm not talking about nobody. I can be talking about my daughter if I want to. But you must be qualified to do this. What I can see is not.
Right. But you know, Frank, you don't use that phone for directions, because you know, as males, we don't need no stinking directions.
Things could be a lot worse too. The village of Harvey owes the city of Chicago $26 million for their water. And you know, like I'm saying, it's not the people's fault. People pay their bills, but the village of Harvey has not paid Chicago for the water.
Surprise, surprise.
It's,
$26 million. I don't know how they get that back because they had that problem with that hotel also. That $10 million disappeared.
right. Yes.
I know Gary's working on a lot of these homes that are squatters in them. It's just amazing that you figure how many homes, he was talking the other day, and I know he's working hard to the homes that don't have people paying bills. They're just squatting in the house and getting free rent, free water, whatever. And they think that's right. But that's not going to happen much longer.
Yeah.
Get them out of here.
You're talking about Gary Holcomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the city of Gary.
No. Gary's really helped a lot with what these houses need to be straightened out. And if you don't pay your water bill, what gives them the right to think that, you know, village is just gonna hand you free water? I have to pay mine, pay it, or get out. Go somewhere else and get it free.
Some of the things we've been doing is, first of all, looking at houses that, where we have squatters, I think. Looking at the vacant housing, that's the Housing Authority has been doing a lot of work on that side. So I appreciate everyone that's on the Housing Authority. You know, it's not just Gary. Gary is the chair, but the Housing Authority is made up of a team of members. So we've been doing that. The other thing too is we look very closely at our voting records. And I can give you an example. Sauk Village has approximately 10,500 employees, right? I mean, I'm sorry, not employees, residents. 10,500 residents, right? Last check, there was over 9,000 registered voters in Sauk Village. So, you know, we're looking at the vacant houses first. We're sending all this information to both Cook County and State of Illinois. Asking for records to be purged, okay? And give me an example. Okay, we said we're around about 10,000. We had 10,000, we had over 9,000 registered voters. You know, it doesn't even explain the amount of kids that we have. Another study was done that said that only 70% of the registered voters, I think it is 70%, I got a lot of numbers in my head right now, only vote.
7 or 7?
70.
7.
Of the registered, I think it's, again, my number might be wrong, but if you looked at, say you took 30% of your registered voters, okay, and then looking at the percentage of children that Sauk Village has in there, the numbers do not add up. And again, there's other things we're looking at. You know, I've really been pushing that. During this last election we saw where we had voter fraud. Okay, I'm pushing that voter fraud, those people have to face for doing. You know, if you live in Sauk Village, you have a right to vote in Sauk Village. But if you live in Dyer, Indiana, and you move down to Sauk Village, and you put your kids into a school in Indiana, that's where you're living. You know, and don't go back and use your former address because no one's living there and you think you can get away with it. You know, I think people should have to pay. And, you know, people say that I'm too mean. I'll tell you what, that's right. So, I'm the type of person that says, you know what? Okay, if they live in Illinois, they live in Indiana. If they live in Indiana, they should get charged for voter fraud. And we should make sure that the schools where their kids go are informed that they're voting in Illinois. You know, so, now, and people say, oh, you're too mean. Well, you know what? If they're knowingly breaking the law, then let it be. You know, I mean, I've lived here all my life. I haven't lived anywhere else except for Sauk Village. This is where I vote. This is where I live. This is where I represent you. You know? So it's another thing when you move to another state. And then you come back just because you want someone you like to get elected and you vote for them. So the only time you can do that is, you know, they give college kids the opportunity to go back to their hometown and vote. And they give military the opportunity to go back to their hometown and vote. You don't get to move to another state, decide you want to come back and vote. You've given up that voting right. You go vote where you moved.
What is the penalty for doing something?
I don't know. I just want to make sure that, the state's attorney's office and attorney general know. And I heard someone say on Facebook, they said on Facebook they know if I voted or not. No, you're right. That's where Facebook is right. They know if you voted or not. That's how we know if you voted or not. Yes.
We have, of course, what happened at the last election, of course, we have somebody who no longer lives in the village, but uses a relative's address here, and also is a voter's registrar. And I understand is not even asking for IDs and registering people to vote. And that's when they were bringing in people at the last election. And I think the same thing is going to happen.
Oh, well, we know what's going on. You know, sometimes, people don't think I move fast enough. You know, and maybe I don't. But in the end, that's right. I like that. The tortoise won the race, right? So, you know, in the end, I look at it this way. If you have to cheat to win, you're not a winner. You're a loser. That's the way I look at it. So, we're going to do our best to do what we're supposed to do. And my focus is going to remain on Sauk Village. My focus is to make sure that we finish all the work on the walls. My focus is to make sure we repair all these fire hydrants. My focus is to be down in Springfield, continue pushing that money that we're supposed to have. I'm telling you, there's going to be some good news coming out. There's going to be some great news coming out. I can't say anything yet. People want to say that or think that the mayor's not doing anything. Give me about another month, I think. And then see if they say the mayor's not doing anything. Okay? I'm busy. I am running day and night. If someone comes and says, well, the mayor's not in his office, that's probably because I had shot down in Springfield, or I'm meeting with other mayors, or I'm meeting with a potential new business to try to get them to come to Sauk Village. So you're right. It's just the other night, Thursday night, I was at WIMPAC. WIMPAC's got some great things going on. I was meeting with Gary, who is the manufacturing, he's the director of manufacturing for the whole entire facility. WIMPAC, the current building is like what? Just under 300,000 square feet. Okay? They're going to put an addition on that's over 300,000 square feet. Their new addition is larger than their current building. 150 new parking spots. Now you add it up. What they're doing. When they first came to Sauk Village, they had right around 200 employees. They're up over 300 employees right now in one pack. You know, and went through and did a review or a tour of their facility. And you're looking at machines, great big, large, humongous machines that cost millions and millions of dollars. And him saying, when we first came on, this first one was part of the building. Since then, we added this one, and we added this one, and we added this one. And these shifts are running 24/7, or 24/6, not 24/7, 24/6. You know, that's here in Sauk Village. You know, when this new addition comes on, we're going to be looking to hire people. As mayor, my job is to deal with these businesses, find out what I can bring back to the residents. So there's things happening in Sauk Village. There's other great things happening. And there's reasons, number one, I don't say things. Because we saw, what was it, 2 years ago? I lose track of time. A year ago? We had a governor come out here and stand outside here. We had a great big event. The governor saying, we got your money. We went to go get it. By the time we went to go get it, we had a new governor. The governor says, you're not getting it. It's on hold right now, right? So now we're waiting. You know, saying, I'm waiting until I have it in my hand. The deal with Enbridge. Enbridge just provided Prairie State College another scholarship for Sauk Village residents and Crete residents. I just put it, I posted on the mayor's Facebook page the article that came out. You know, this is for Sauk Village. It spells it right out. These scholarships are for Sauk Village and Crete residents, not Illinois or Indiana residents. Sauk Village and Crete. There's good things happening. There's great things happening in Sauk Village. Sometimes it's easier to focus on the negative, and sometimes the negative outshines the positive. But in the end, you're going to find out there's some positive things happening, and we're going to be coming out. You know, I keep on waiting. You know, I've been talking to our state reps, and I've been talking to key individuals and saying, you know, I'm itching, man. I want to say something. Do we have it yet? How close are we to having this? So, but I would say probably we're hoping before the end of this year, we're going to come out with some fantastic information that's going to show the residents how hard we're working on your behalf. Yes.
Well, throughout history, bad things have happened when good people do nothing. And to me, complaining about something and not being involved and getting it done is the same as doing nothing. You know, you don't know that somebody from a different town is going to make political decisions in the town that has something to do with me, and they don't live here, they have to suffer very long with me.
Right.
Have you seen a major influx of the FOIA requests because somebody put out FOIA everything? Did that happen?
Yeah, we did. We saw the FOIAs are coming in left and right. And, I just met with JW the other day. I think we're going to look at hiring someone just to help with FOIAs because it's so time consuming. And you know, what does a FOIA do? You know, it's a freedom of information. I think we have the right to the information, but some of these FOIAs that are coming through are just time wasters. I mean, I saw a FOIA come across the other day. I said, I want to see, I can't remember what it is. They wanted to see something going for 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2013, 2014, 2015. You know, it takes time to get that kind of information. So, you know, if we have to hire someone, we'll hire someone. And believe me, people want to know how much we're spending on this FOIA. I've already told them, I said, I want a cost. And I want it broke down by individuals, especially for the lawyer's costs, because it seems like lawyer's cost is a big thing right now. They don't want to complain about lawyer's costs, so we'll break it down and say, for FOIAs for this individual, the village had to pay this much money in lawyer's costs. FOIAs for this individual, the village had to pay this much for FOIA costs. We're going to break it down. And, you know, it's important to keep track of this information. We're also looking at, the state of Illinois just got them passing that your FOIA information, if you put it on your website, that when someone FOIA something, if the information is already available, you don't have to provide it in the pointer to your website. So, you know, I've already talked to Debbie, and to Rosie, and to Gerald to see what we got to do to put out a whole entire page for FOIAs. And maybe we start going forward, putting all the information out there on the website. So, because a lot of times we get FOIAs for the same thing over and over and over. But it still takes time for someone to go to the file cabinet, pull it out, make all the copies, and then looking, making sure they didn't miss anything. We can always say, that FOIA has already been requested, go to the website.
And if they don't like the answer, they're gonna twist a word or two and do it again.
You know what?
That's
We'll still point them to the website. If they ask for additional information, you know, we can put out what saves you time, and if someone comes back this year and says, I want 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, next year I want 16. You know, you're going back and pulling all those records from the previous years and this year. What will end up happening is saying, those previous years you want is already posted. Now, here's for 2016 is all you're getting. So, the other thing too is the state has passed that we can start charging after a certain amount for FOIA requests. So we're going to start enforcing that. What we'll do is we'll kind of get a brief estimated cost, and we'll provide that back to the person for you to say it's going to cost you this amount. So, and nobody is exempt. Okay, now I see a FOIA request saying, you know, I'm part of the media. I want you to pay the fees. I look at media different. If you're at a social hack Facebook page, you're not media. So, Rose.
You know, on the FOIA, do we have a limit to the number of pages? Or do they have to pay anything for over a certain amount?
Yes, I don't know that number, but there is now, state has approved that over a certain amount of pages that they can start having to pay. I don't remember if it's a reasonable cost or if there's a cost associated. But our FOIA officers, which is Sherry, she's our FOIA officer, and I think Debbie's her backup, they know that. I don't
So
think
there
they-
is a charge because
They take all the training.
having records going back to 2012, you know.
And we got a request for going all the way back to 2008. I think it was 2008 or something.
Another thing I wanted to ask, were they able to get a qualified applicant for Public Works?
Yesterday was the last day for applicants, so I talked to Kevin yesterday. By the end of the day, and I think he has something like 50 applicants or more.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he'll be going through the applicants, he'll be doing the interviews. We let the department head do all that.
Is that Sauk Village resident?
Again, you're looking for qualified individuals. There's no residential requirement for our employees. And then again, I leave it up to the department head for hiring, and will get involved in the hiring. Yes.
A few months ago, you mentioned something about up the corner where Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's and that
Car wash?
car wash. You said something was gonna go on over there, but you couldn't say anything. Is something like that still in the works, or?
Last I heard, it's still in the works. I think the car wash for sure is supposed to be coming down. I heard that the oil Jiffy Lube, the old Jiffy Lube might be coming down. I know that Dunkin' Donuts, it's now Dunkin' Donuts, it's no longer Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin Robbins. It went to just the donuts. They've done a bunch of repairs and stuff to their building, and they're making, painting and redoing the inside, things like that, so. Got a couple minutes here.
Is the tearing down these places, has that something to do with housing or anything?
Not housing, we're looking at.
County?
Sorry.
The cost, is it covered by us, or who's paying for the cost of the tear down?
For which, the businesses or the houses?
You're saying the auto place and,
That's not a cost of the village.
oh,
Cost of either the property owner or potential new developer. Which one? No cost of the village. Yes.
The gentleman that was purchasing where the old post office, where the post offices, is that, he was going to bring down post offices, is that progressing or?
I can tell you the village board approved the resolution in favor of a Class 8. After that point, his job is to work for the county with the documentation and request the Class 8, which is the county has to do their work. Sometimes things move pretty slow. But as of right now, I haven't heard anything yet. Last I heard, he was going to the county to, he submitted all the paperwork. Things like that. That's last I heard. Couple more minutes. Oh, yeah, Rain Barrels. Rain Barrels is up and going again for a while, and it stopped. I'm trying to think, I wish Debbie was here. She could tell you how many rain barrels that they have that they're passing out. But of that, I think, did she say like 800 from Sauk Village? 800 rain barrels. That's, I think it's 800, really. So, rain barrels, you're still interested in rain barrels, fill out your applications, get them into the village clerk, she'll make sure it gets in. There was some delay because the manufacturer of the rain barrels, they had to find someone else. And I was just informed that the county has found another manufacturer to make these. I think they said the colors might be a little bit different, but it's supposed to be the same type of setup with the rain barrels, with the faucets and spot and catch and rain, things like that. So I know that the village is looking at some ordinances that will discuss the enforcement of these. And again, remember the rain barrels is not to be used for garbage. The rain barrels are to be used, or you're supposed to have your downspouts connected to them, things like that. So the village is looking for some type of ordinance for enforcing, to make sure they're used the correct way. I think it's before the ordinance review committee, I think. They went back to the ordinance review committee for review. So we'll see if someone comes back to the board in the next month or so. And while I'm thinking of it, remember, we're getting into the holiday season, right? Next month. Of course, the end of this month is Halloween, so be very careful on the 31st. The kids are going to be out probably running up and down the streets. And, I tell everyone it's not safe for the kids, but it's definitely not safe for the seniors, right? So be careful when you're out there driving. These kids they're wearing masks, so they don't have full sight. All they're thinking about is into the next house to get that candy, right? So be careful. There's a lot going on the 31st. They've got the Halloween parade. I think it's happening that day. I think they're doing trunk or treat that day. In fact, there's 2 trunk or treats going on that day. One at the Church of God, one here at the community center. Then we've got trick or treating from 4 to 6. Thank you very much. And I wanted 3 to 6. So 4 to 6 is trick or treating. So just be careful with the kids running up and down the street. Then we get into November. At the end of November, we've got Thanksgiving, right? So it's a time to celebrate. We're thankful for what we have. And then we get into Christmas. Remember Christ's birth. So we want to make sure that we celebrate that. So a lot of things going on coming up. And we get around the holiday seasons, there's less village board meetings. So make sure you keep an eye on the schedule. Beginning of the year, schedule went out for the holidays. And remember that for cost savings, and a lot of it was for cost savings, but we reduced 11 meetings this last year. So if you look at the meetings, $800 a meeting for paying trustees. And that's not including electrical, gas, opening the building, department heads, employees. So with 11 less meetings since last year, we saved quite a bit. And we're already looking at next year's meetings. We're probably going to cut some meetings next year. Again, looking at cost savings and looking at better ways to run something. So that's
Our spaghetti dinner.
today from 1 to 4. So
The doors will open at 12.
12 o'clock. Have your forks and your spoons ready to swirl with that spaghetti, right? So, yep, from 1 to 4, right across the hallways, right here, today's senior spaghetti dinner. So I already got my tickets. And I'm ready. So, yeah, I get your tickets too. Well, we're after 11 o'clock. So I appreciate everyone. Again, I will try to get this out on my blog page. I'll try to get it on my Facebook page for the presentation we had today. Things we talked about, you know, if you're interested in, talk to your elected officials. Tell them, or this review committee, Trustee Myers, he's the chair for that one. Get out there and talk to him. Say, you know what? The mayor did a presentation the other day that stuff he learned from IML. Now, I think these are good things we should do. If you feel they are, talk to him. All right? So, all right, thank you very much. Appreciate y'all coming out.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
No, don't start that. Let's look at everything. I'm going on in the garden.
Yeah, the door will be open on this side. I don't want to open the other side.
All right.
I still go, I still go.
I'll be up here and you're gonna.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, Lester. How are you? Good.
Good. Hey, honey, how are you? You didn't get me no coffee?
Who's buying coffee?
I could barely get coffee for myself.